Hi, welcome to Fourth Form Yoga. Today we're going to practice a yoga sequence that's working with hip pain. And this is going to be a partner sequence, so you're going to need a couple props and you're also going to need a partner for some of these adjustments. And don't worry about finding a partner who has necessarily been deeply experienced with doing yoga adjustments. These are really simple adjustments that anybody can safely do from home if you just take your time and pay attention and communicate with your partner. So the props that you're going to need, besides having a partner and adjuster for this practice, is a yoga mat, a chair. So I have a folding chair here, but really any chair in general will work for you. You'll need a strap, a tennis ball, and a blanket. So we're going to start in a reclined position, and we'll start by taking this blanket, right? I'm going to open this up once and twice so you have a longer rectangle here. And then from this long rectangle, I'm just going to fold this over once, long edge to long edge, so that you have something like this. And then place this right in the center line of your mat, a little bit closer towards the top edge of your mat. And have your mat facing so that the long edge of your mat is pointed towards your screen, towards me, and that when you're lying down, your right hip is facing the screen. So Cisco, go ahead and take a seat here and then lie down with your right hip facing towards the screen. Right. And take your time, move organically, go softly on the way down, especially if you're dealing with any pains from hip or sacrum impingement. And then take a moment to find yourself on the center line of that blanket. And then Cisco, slide down towards your heel side a little bit, just so your entire head is on the blanket. Good, right there, just like that. And then bend your knees into your chest just for a moment. As the adjuster, I'm going to come by. I'm going to slide the chair under his calves. And then so you can adjust, you can bring your feet under the chair. Yeah, bring your feet under the back of the chair there. So adjust how you need. Good. And settle in here for a moment. Bring your arms a little bit wider. Turn your palms up. Good. And then just pause for a moment. So this beginning position is a variation of what's called Panasana, or downward energy pose. Kind of means just grounding pose, right? Settling into the floor, settling into gravity. So once you're settled down onto the floor, as the adjuster, you'll go ahead and grab your strap. And you want to strap with a locking mechanism, so some kind of buckle. If you tie it together, just be mindful of how tight you tie the strap so you're able to get it loose as well. So as the adjuster, I'm going to come around to the side of his body here. And I'm going to ask Cisco for assistance. So can you grab this strap and just place it on your as-is bones, the upper hip ridge. So you want your partner to hold the strap right at those front hip bones just to start. So keep your strap there. As the adjuster, I'm going to take both ends of the strap and I'm going to slide them under the chair inside the chair legs, Here, just like this. I want to be careful not to wrinkle up or twist the strap in any way. Once I have that set up under the chair, what I'll do is I'll set the buckle, I'll set the complete loop in this strap, and I'll tighten it up just a little bit so that as I bring some tension, some tightness to the strap, I have a good maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet away from the chair. Okay. Then as the adjuster, I'll step 1 foot in, grab the back of the chair, step my other foot in, and then I'm going to set my feet at hip distance, and I'm going to start just by maintaining a little bit of tension in the strap. I'm not really pulling too much, I'm just keeping it off the floor, and now the strap is just above my ankle bones. Okay. And so once I'm set here, Cisco, you can relax your arms to the floor and just turn your palms up. Now it's really important that whenever you're doing yoga adjustments as a partner, if you're working with another person, that communication is always simple, concise, and clear. Right, just asking, the way I simply ask when I adjust is, I say, is this pressure okay? Or would you like more or less? Is this good? More or less pressure, right? And if you are somebody who's getting adjusted, always feel free to voice how things feel, especially if things are starting to kind of working towards the pain mode. Be communicative with your partner and just let them know. Slow it down just a little bit, right? And so from here, I'm going to slowly just lift one heel up at a time. So I'm kind of balancing on the ball mounds of my feet. Again, I have the chair for balance. I'm going to tiptoe back just a few inches. You really don't have to go back that far. Now, if you can watch and maybe see here in the screen, watch the lateral part of Cisco's body. Watch the space between his hips and his ribs. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. As we breathe out, I'm going to slowly bring my heels down to the floor, creating this traction in the lumbar spine, and then I'm just going to pause. Now, I have a small bend in my knees. This way I can kind of leverage my weight back and also still feel balanced myself, because as an adjuster, you don't want to ever feel off balance or in pain, right? And so then we'll just hang out here. Once you have your adjustment in and set with that hip traction, just pause and breathe. As the person being adjusted, eyes open or closed, your choice. Just relax everything, kind of Gumby body, no effort. And just focus on your breathing. As the person who is adjusting, keep your gaze forward on the floor, just a little bit above the person you are adjusting's head. And it's nice every once in a while to kind of just check in with their facial expression. Their face will tell you a lot about how the adjustment's working, right? Ooh, means too much oftentimes. So just watching for that. Okay. Now, as I release the pose, we'll work with the breath. Take a deep breath in. Exhale slowly as the adjuster, breathing out. Lean forward, lift your heels up and go slow on the way out. Tiptoe your feet forward, 0.5 centimeter at a time. That's slow. And then mindfully step out from the strap. And just let your partner rest for a moment, right? Especially with that low back traction, you want to give yourself a little bit of time and just a few breaths for your low back to settle into its form and kind of receive the blood flow and the oxygen that we just brought to that part of the body. Okay. So I'm going to come over here and release this strap. Just taking our time, moving from one pose to the next. It's a general rule of thumb in my belief when it comes to yoga, that the longer you hold a pose, I think the slower you should move out of it, right? Especially in the restorative type of setting. If you hold a pose for an extended amount of time, really go slow into the next one. So go ahead and bend your knees into your chest. And then as you're ready, you can roll over to your right side and stack your hands under your head like a pillow. And then bend your knees up towards your chest a bit more. So you're curling into a tight ball shape just for a moment and breathe. Okay, now as the adjuster, as the partner here, I'm going to go ahead and slide the blanket out and away from him just a little bit. Okay, now Cisco, you can start to make your way up onto your hands and knees, tabletop position. And then once you're in your tabletop position, you can go ahead and grab the blanket and then roll up the blanket in a tight roll, as tight as you can possibly make it. And you want to keep the length. You want to keep the length to the blanket, just how you had it under your spine. Awesome. Once you have the blanket set, you can lie it right in the center of your mat, So it's running perpendicular to the yoga mat itself. And then slowly lie down, belly down on the blanket so that the blanket rests in between your ribs and your belly button, your upper psoas area, Right, just in between the belly button and the ribs. So you can take a moment finding that place. And then take your elbows, bend them out wide, stack your hands, and relax your forehead down on your hands. Right, surrender the weight of your skull. And then bring your legs just a little bit wider. Turn your toes in and just let your heels kind of rest out to the side. And once you get into this position, just pause and take a couple breaths. Especially if you're dealing with a lot of intense pains in your low back or your hip from some sort of injury or just a chronic pain in general. Sometimes even gentle extensions like lying down on the belly can really cause funkiness, right, and nerve disruption. So you want to give yourself some time to kind of settle into each pose before we go right into the adjustment. Okay, so as the adjuster, I'm going to go ahead and stand right alongside his body, right at the mid-body, kind of at the thoracic spine, bottom of the shoulder blade area. And I'm facing the opposite direction. And so whatever leg is closest to me, I'm going to use the leg that is closest to my partner as the adjusting leg. First thing first, I want to find Tadasana as the adjuster. So I have a strong posture myself, standing nice and tall, legs together. And then taking my hands to my hips, I'll bend my knees just slightly, kind of a mini chair pose. I have some stability and some strength in my legs and my balance. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the leg closest to him, closest to my partner, and then I'm going to take my heel. I'm keeping my foot in dorsiflexion, and I'm going to place my heel right at the center part of his upper hip ridge. So right where the hip and the low back connect, or right where the glute and the low back connect, right on that bone there, the base of the hip ridge, finding the center spot of that area. And then working together with our breath, take a deep breath in. As we exhale, as the adjuster, I'm going to press my heel forward towards the back side of his mat, just slightly. And with this one, you really don't need a lot of pressure. It's just a gentle amount of pressure, and then you'll check in with your partner. How is this, Cisco? Is this good, more or less? He says it's good right here. So we'll just hang out here for a few more breaths. Right, and as the adjuster, I'm still focused and I'm still dialed into feeling my heel. I want to feel that hip bone so that I'm not just into the glute, I'm not just into the low back, I'm into the hip bone, and I'm pressing away. And again, just a little bit of pressure. Maybe 15, 20%, that's all. And as I make my way out, I'm going to slowly release the pressure. I step both feet down, find my nice tall mountain pose, and then I step away. I let my partner rest for a breath or two, just letting the body, nervous system digest. Okay. And then I'll work over to the other side and do the same thing. First, I'm going to prep, standing mountain pose, bend my knees a little bit, hands to the hips. I'll lift the leg up that's closest to my partner. I'm dorsiflexing, so I'm stretching my heel away, curling my toes. I'm going to place my heel bone at the upper hip ridge, right in the center, between the sacrum, the tailbone area, and the outer part of the hip, right in the center. And then I like to look forward on the floor a little bit. It helps give me some strength in my posture and balance. Take a deep breath in. As we exhale, I'm pressing my heel into his hip, but I'm pressing the hip more away from his body. I'm pressing down maybe 10%, and the rest of my effort is pressing the hip bone away. And again, this is a medium adjustment. You don't need to press on the hip too much here. As I release, I'm going to come out slow, place both my feet down, regain my posture, and then I'll walk away. And again, now we've been in this pose for a little bit here, so we'll move out real slow. So as you are ready to move, slide your legs together just a little bit closer. You're going to place your hands down to the ground and keep your head resting. Keep your chin tucked to your chest. Press the tops of your feet down to the ground. And then point your elbows up to the sky like your arms are doing a push-up. And then use your shoulder strength. Slowly start to lift your hips up and press back, almost as if you're going to start to lift up and press your hips towards your heels, like you were moving into child's pose. Just enough to kind of move out of the pose. And you can walk your hands back, Cisco. Again, going nice and slow. And then moving that from that position, you can come into hands and knees and then just roll over onto your back and lie down in the reclined position. Again, right, Cisco's taking his time. He's doing slow, kind of just organic movements to get to his back. There's no rush from pose to pose. Okay, sweet. And then we're going to work into what's called Supta Bharadvadrasana, or the windshield wiper pose. So go ahead and take your arms out wide, shoulder level, spread your fingers out wide. Then walk your heels up toward your hips as much as you can naturally without gripping with your hands. Then walk your feet out wide to the edges of your mat. Turn your toes in, heels out, and then bring your knees together. Right. And so this is kind of the more traditional Apanasana. Right. It's a variation of the same thing we started with the legs up on the chair, and this is just a little bit more easy, just into the floor, no props. Now keep your feet out wide as they are and slowly release both of your knees down to your left, down to your left. And he takes his time lowering the knees. And as the adjuster, you need to be a second pair of eyes for your partner. And make sure whatever leg is above, that the knee and the hip are in line. So Cisco, if you can take this leg out to the side a little bit, and good, right there. So I'm just making sure that his hip bone and his knee bone are aligned with one another. And you can actually move this the other way just a little bit. Perfect right there. And then once that is set, go ahead and take the bind. So take your left ankle on top of your right knee and dorsiflex both feet. Curl your toes up towards your knees. And then turn your head to your right. Other way with your head. Yep, so your head and your knees go in opposite directions. As the adjuster, you'll stand towards the leg that has the foot on the ground. So in this case, this is the right foot. As the adjuster, I'm going to place my right foot in front of Cisco's right ankle. And then I'm going to take the front side of my left ankle to the back of Cisco's calf, right into the calf and knee crease. And so I'm starting here with my right toes pointing forward and my left toes pointing out to the side slightly. So I start with my left foot in a slight external rotation. Hands to the hips. I'm looking forward on the ground again for some stability, for some balance. And then as I'm ready, I'm going to slowly roll my left heel up and then bend forward into the left leg. So I'm straightening my right leg. Left heel is lifting, and then I'm leveraging forward with that left ankle to draw Cisco's right knee forward. And again, this is one with just kind of a medium type of adjustment. You don't want to pull too much. And then check in with your partner. Cisco, is this okay? Or would you like more or less? Okay, he says a little bit more. So I'm going to lean forward just a little bit. I keep my balance, and I just lift this heel up a little bit higher. I'm still pressing down through the ball mount of my foot so that I stay grounded so I don't slip on the mat. Keep things safe for not only myself, but for my partner. Okay, now I'm going to slowly release. I'm keeping my posture tall as best I can. And I'm slowly just going to release my left heel back down to the ground. Super slow on the way out from these adjustments. Okay. And then I'll walk away. Slowly roll your head back to center. And then release your bind. Release your ankle from your knee. And then just pause for a moment. Take a deep breath in and out through your nose. Slowly float your knees back up to center. Find that Panasana, that neutral reclined position. Feet wide, knees together. And now let's go to the other way. So you can roll your knees down to your right and turn your head to your left. Yeah. And again, slow entry, slow exit. There's no rush here, especially with the restorative stuff, no rush. Okay, cool. Then once you set, before you take the bind, I'm just going to check the alignment of the top leg or the up leg. Right, so move your left leg out to the left a little bit here, Cisco. Keep going, and right there. So now the hip and the knee are in line with one another. Dorsiflex the feet at the ankles, and then take your bind. This time it'll be right ankle on top of the left knee. Settle in. As the adjuster, I approach towards the side body, right behind his left calf. I'm going to take my left foot and place the heel on just in front of his ankle. So they're touching to begin with. And then I'll slide my right ankle behind his left calf. And again, the adjusting foot, it starts in an external rotation. So my left foot goes forward, my right toes turn out to the side. Take my hands to my hips, and I'm going to slowly lean forward as I lift this right heel up and then square my hips to the wall that's out in front of me or the space that's out in front of me. Now I have my stable position, and I'm in a good adjusting position. I'm going to turn over to my left shoulder so I can continue to adjust his knee forward in that direction. And I'll check in and say, Cisco, is this good here, this pressure, or do you want more or less? This is good. He says this side is good. So we'll just hang out here for a couple more breaths. As the adjuster, I'm keeping calm and focused with my breathing. As the person in the pose, completely relaxed. Zero effort. Maybe keep a little bit of mindfulness in the connection between your ankle and your knee, but other than that, kind of just like a sandbag, rest down. Okay, I'm going to slowly come out, nice and easy. I lower my heel down. slide my foot out, and walk away. And if you're ever working with somebody whose hips are pretty pliable to begin with, moving in and out, you can always just bend down in a squat position and lift this bottom knee up and over your ankle. Especially on the way out, you don't want to just slide your foot out and let somebody's knee drop to the ground. Right? So be mindful of that as well. And then slow on the way out, release your bind, roll your head to center, and then just pause here for a breath. Okay, nice and slow. Roll your knees back to neutral. And then pause there. Okay. If you're the person doing the practice on the floor here, make sure that your feet are hip distance. Well, you're pretty good right there, Cisco. And then I'm going to reach over as the adjuster and grab the blanket roll again. I'm going to roll it up tighter if I need to, or just reset this roll type of shape in our prop. Now I'm going to look at my partner's side body, and I'm looking for shoulder, armpit, and kind of the middle part of the lat, kind of the lower part of the shoulder blade here. That's where I'm aiming for. And so slowly, right, we've been doing a lot of deep adjustments in the hips. Start to lift your hips up off the floor, create a bridge position. Lift your hips up, lift your ribs up just enough. I'm going to slide this blanket under my partner's body, and my goal here is to get this right at the bottom tips of his shoulder blades. So both arms and shoulders are above the blanket. And then slowly lower your hips back down. And then pause for a moment, and then we'll just check in. How does this position of the blanket feel? It feels good? Okay. So then we'll move on from here. So now we'll need the tennis ball. I'm going to hand Cisco the tennis ball. You can take this in your right hand. All right, and so we'll start with our right side here. Once you have the tennis ball set in your right hand, take your right ankle, cross it over your left thigh. Then pause for a moment. Right, dorsiflex your foot, curl your toes towards your knees for a little bit of joint security there. Then as you're ready, lift your hips up just an inch, and then put that tennis ball underneath your right glute, near the upper part of your glute, upper part. Again, right where the glute and the low back meet, that hip ridge area, the glute med area. And then once you have that set, take both arms out wide, and then pause for a moment. Slowly tiptoe your left foot out a little wider towards the edge of the mat. Good, pause there. Now keep your upper body, shoulder blades, arms, head all neutral in that center position where it is. And then just start to rock your hips a little bit side to side, basing off of this left foot, this left ankle. That's kind of the grounding position to move from. And then you can play around too with rolling your right knee away from you, rolling it back in. This also changes the sensation of the glute med kind of breakdown here. And so this is a good way to release myofascial pressure and just tension that we build up in our hips from regular daily work, sitting, standing, moving, working out. Okay, cool. And then slow it down and start by tiptoeing your left foot back in towards the midline, not the exact center. Right there is good. And then reach with your right hand, grab the tennis ball, lift your hips and exit slowly in reverse. Lower your hips down, and then lower your foot down, and then just pause for a second. And then take your right foot down to the ground. And then once both feet are down, just pause. Especially during the restorative type of yoga, it's nice sometimes to pause, get a calm neutral in between right and left side. Okay, so let's do that other side. Take the ball into your left hand, cross your left ankle over your right thigh, flex the foot, lift your hip, and then slide the ball into your hip. And you can always take your time adjusting the ball, making sure it's in a good placement to where you feel like you're getting a good stretch, a good pressure release from the tennis ball. And arms out wide as the anchor, tiptoe your right foot out wide towards the edge of your mat. And then from here, pivoting off that right foot, kind of roll, rock side to side. And take your time finding the sweet spot for you in your hip, right? Slow down and breathe so you can really feel and notice where the pain, where the tension is at this moment. Work that out and then continue from there. You can slow it down. Reach for the tennis ball, lift your hip. Lower your hip down, tiptoe your right foot back towards the center, and then lower your left foot down. And you can just drop the tennis ball, take that. Yeah. Okay. Again, as the adjuster, I'm going to help move the blanket, lift your hips up, and then just lower your hips down. And once you're here in this position, this bent knee position, just hang out for a second. Okay. And then we'll take Shavasana. As the adjuster, go ahead and grab the blanket. And then as your partner starts to stretch their legs out long on the floor, you want to slide this blanket under their legs so that as their legs land straight, you have the blanket supporting the outer parts of their knees. Right here. Good. And then slide your hands down a little bit closer towards you so your arms are more at a 45-degree angle so it's not quite next to your body or up at shoulder level, somewhere in between here. As the adjuster, one more little adjustment from the legs, tractioning out from the hips here again. So as the adjuster, I'm going to face forward towards the head side of my partner. I'm going to bend my knees and I get a good strong chair position type of stance. Reaching down, grabbing the base of the ankles where it attaches to the heels. And then I'm going to look forward and I pull back just a little bit. I don't really need to go back that far. Slowly bringing their legs down. And my partner's doing a good job to keep the Gumby legs, right? As you're being adjusted, keep your legs completely off. And then once their legs are resting, you want to just double check that the blanket is in fact supporting their outer knee so that there's no space between the blanket and the outer part of their knee. And then rest here. Rest here. You've done the work, the effort's completed, so enjoy the fruits of your labor. Take at least 5 minutes in this Shavasana, especially after that deep restorative adjustment type of practice. If you have 10 minutes, 15 minutes, by all means, take as much time as you would like, but take at least 5 minutes for Shavasana so your nervous system and your body can repair and really replenish moving forward. Take your time, move slow on the way out. Thank you all so much for joining us for this partner practice for relieving hip pain. Namaste.